Hi. Now we will start with the fundamentals of environment impact assessment, module 1. So before going to the actual content, let us see some of the technical terms that we use in connection with the environment impact assessment, because this is a new course, and so we have to learn the fundamentals first, followed by the actual content of the topic. So we will start with the environment. We all know that environment is the sum total of all conditions and influences that affect the development and life of organisms. These all conditions required for the development of organisms on the surface of the earth. So our environment impact assessment has three components: environment, then second one impact, and third one assessment. So we will see these technical terms one by one, and then we will merge these terms together so that we will get an idea regarding what you mean by environmental impact assessment. So this is a quotation: man is the center of the environment. Without man, no environment, and without environment, no man. That means man and environment are integrately interrelated. So these are the two sides of a coin, man and environment. Now, one important technical term that we use in EAA is action. So you might have heard about these terms in various other fields of life. So in EAA, action means any engineering or industrial projects, legislative proposal, policy program, or operational procedure with the environment implications. In simple words, any developmental projects, whether it's a small one or a large one, which has some impact on environment implications. So any developmental activity which has an impact on environment, or which has environment implication, can be considered as an action. So we use this term throughout this particular course. Whenever you use the term action, means it's any developmental activity on the surface of the earth with the environmental implications. Okay. Another term is environmental change. We are familiar with this term. When we use the term environmental change, it's a simple, natural, and man-made change in the environment. So it's actually, environmental change is the term used qualitatively, indicating change in the environment due to natural or man-made activity. Now we use another term, environmental effect. When you use the term effect, it's actually change in the environment due to man-made activity. It's again a qualitative term, but it's purely change in environment due to human activity, anthropogenic activity. Now another advanced one, much better than environmental effect, is environmental impact. When we use the term environmental impact, it's the change in environmental quality due to human activity, but here a quantitative judgment, a value judgment has been made on the importance of environmental effect. So in this environment impact, we are quantifying the change in environment. So quantification is also done. So what's the difference between environmental effect and environmental impact? Both are actually due to man-made activity, but in the case of environmental effect, it's only a qualitative term. On the other hand, when we come to environmental impact, we are quantifying the change in environment due to human activity using some scientific methodology. So that actually we are coming to environmental impact assessment. Now we are combining environment, we are combining impact, and then combine. So what is EAA? What is the definition for EAA? When you refer any books, you will get different types of definitions depending upon the person who is contributing that one and his field of specialization. But a commonly used definition is this one. EAA can be considered as a practical and effective tool used in the decision-making process of major developmental projects at the national level and local level. It's a tool. First of all, it's a tool. It's a tool used in the decision-making process of developmental projects. These projects can be small-scale projects, maybe, as I mentioned earlier, maybe a construction of a check dam in a river, or it can be a big project of national importance, like the construction of a nuclear power plant. So whether this project should be sanctioned, so actually the decision will be taken up by the government, the decision authority So in order to help the decision authority to take a decision regarding the fate of the project, we use EIA as a tool. So EIA as a tool is not a simple process. EIA is not a simple process. Don't think that one person actually going to the field, studying the project area and making a report and submitting and finally making a decision. No, it is not like that. EIA can be considered as a package. Package means so many persons involved, so many stages of activity, so many processes are involved, and finally you will get a report like a PhD thesis, which contains so many chapters. We will see all these things later. So EIA is not a simple one, even though it's a tool. It's a package which contains so many stages or steps for doing the program, and there is a systematic procedure for that one. The framework of the EIA program actually more or less similar internationally, but there are some variations inside that format because of the change in the political and administrative setup of a particular country. So EIA can be considered as a practical and effective tool used in the decision-making process of major projects at the national level and local level. Now we will see what is the purpose and goals of EIA. Why we are doing this EIA program. So the ultimate goal of EIA is to make sure that all development projects should be eco-friendly and sustainable. So these two terms you should remember: eco-friendly and sustainable. All development projects should be, ultimate aim is to convert all development projects should be eco-friendly and sustainable. So whenever a person submitting a project proposal, it should not be, it need not be an eco-friendly one. Maybe it is actually satisfying all the requirements of the person who is known as proponent. At the time of submission, it may not be 100% or may not be a better eco-friendly project. So this EIA team will assess this project, identify the probable environment impacts, and they go for various mitigatory measures. So by incorporating mitigatory measures and incorporating so many other things, ultimately a project can be converted to environmentally sound and sustainable with the minimum impact on environment. And this EIA will also help us to prevent the long-term adverse effects by incorporating suitable mitigatory measures. So in the EIA package, we are doing the actual environment impact assessment. In addition to that one, we are making so many mitigatory measures or management options to improve the quality of the environment, and also there are monitoring programs. It contains so many things there, and ultimately it constitutes what we call it as EIA. So EIA is a practical and effective tool used in the decision-making process, and the ultimate goal of EIA is to convert all development projects to eco-friendly and sustainable. What do you mean by sustainable? So sustainable means we have heard about sustainable development. It is the development that meets the needs of today's generation without compromising those of future generation. So it's actually a sustainable way, useful for the present generation as well as for the future generation without degrading the environment. So there are so many aspects related to this one. Whenever government takes some actions or policies, it will have a beneficial to the environment, and sometimes it will have adverse impact to the environment. For example, if I say a legislative proposal by government to ban pesticides in India, legislative proposal to ban pesticides, it will have a positive impact on environment because we are banning pesticides and we are encouraging biopesticides. Then another example is a change in national energy policy of Government of India. Change in national energy policy. Conventionally, we are using coal as a major source of energy in India. Suppose if you switch over from coal to solar power plant, solar power, what will happen? So it's a renewable energy resource, clean energy. So we are reducing the greenhouse gases. Lot of positive impacts are there on the environment. And another example is, suppose there is a change in subsidies or tariff on farm products. Some of the farm products government giving lot of subsidies, so it will have positive impact on environment. So we are making use of, if it's a greenery farm products, green product, what will happen? We are actually consuming more that one, and it will have positive impacts. So these are some of the items we need to take into consideration when we study the purpose and goals of EAA. Now, EAA can be considered as a planning process. How it can be considered as a planning process? As I mentioned earlier, EAA actually predict, analyze and interpret the significant environmental effects of a development proposal, and these results will be useful for decision making. So EAA is doing a lot of activities, step-by-step activities, ultimately helping the government to take a decision regarding the fate of a particular project. So it can be considered as a planning process. And as a result of these activities, EA will actually minimize the adverse impacts on the environment and help countries to capture the real potential of their resources. So it's actually a beneficial things for a particular country. So it can be considered as a planning process. A lot of programs are there, step-by-step programs ultimately help a project to eco-friendly, convert it to eco-friendly and sustainable with the minimum impact on environment. So the ultimate goal of EA can be sustainable development, to actually move with the sustainable development, and one of the activity of the attain sustainable development is EAA program. Now we will see what are the process that involved in the EAA program or EAA package. So EAA will modify or improve the design of a original proposal. Original proposal may have so many environmental impacts, and once we do the EA proposal, EA activity, it will modify the proposal. It will also ensure that the resources are used very efficiently. It enhances the social aspects related to the proposal. It identifies measures for monitoring and managing impacts, and ultimately facilitate informed decision making. So it will help altogether. It will do a lot of modification of the proposal, and the resources in a particular region can be used very efficiently without wasting the natural resources. Even manpower can be used very efficiently. It will improve the social aspects of a particular region, and it will do the monitoring programs to avoid future impacts on the environment, and ultimately help the decision making process. Okay, coming to another important aspects regarding the characteristics of environmental impacts. So we have so far heard about the what is environmental impact, what are the goals of environmental impacts. Now, what are the characteristics of environment? When we use the term environmental impacts, it's actually a man-made impact, man-made change in the environment, and the quantification is possible. So whenever you make an environmental assessment report, that's the final form. So many technical terms that we use in connection with the environmental impacts. So the various characteristics or various attributes of environmental impacts that we commonly used in environmental impact statement reports is type and nature of impact, magnitude of impact, extent of impact, timing of impact, duration of impact, uncertainty of impact, reversibility of impact, and significance of impact. These 8 terms we commonly use. And when we look into these aspects one by one, or characteristics one by one, you can see that these type and nature means type of impacts means impact can be positive or negative impact. I already mentioned about these 2 terms. Type means positive and negative impacts. And when we come to the nature of impact, it can be direct impact or indirect impact or a cumulative. That means a combination of direct and indirect impact. So these are we use various keywords that we use to express the type and nature of impact. When we come to the magnitude of impact, magnitude means quantity. What is the quantity of impact? Quantity in terms of the strength of the impact, all these things. So there are keywords like low, moderate, and high. Magnitude can be low magnitude, moderate magnitude, and high magnitude. So these are actually qualitative terms that we use. Then we come to the extent of impact. It's actually indicating the spatial coverage of the impact, whether it is confined in a small area or a moderate area, large area, like that. So the keywords that we used in connection with the extent of impact include local impact, regional impact, transboundary impact, and global impact. Some of the impacts may be crossing one nation, going to the other, or it can be global. For example, if you release greenhouse gas in the atmosphere from India, it will not confine to the Indian territory. Once it gets into the troposphere, we become part of the wind system. It moves in the wind and it travels across India, going ahead from even tropical region to polar region. So that is why we get this ozone depletion of these things in the polar regions due to the transportation of various pollutants from the ozone depleting substance from one region to the other. So this is a simple example. So that is the extent of impact. Coming to the timing of impact. Timing means whether we felt the impact for a short-term period or long-term period, or it will be continuous. That's the timing of impact. Short-term, long-term, or continuous. And the duration is another, similar meaning as that of timing. It's actually indicating whether the impact is temporary or permanent. Permanent means it will continue for long period of time. That is there. Then uncertainty of impact. Some of the impact may be very significant, but we are not sure whether it will happen. For example, oil spillage in the ocean. So many containers, so many ships actually transport a huge amount of oil. Oil tanks are there. So once some spillage is there, it will have impact. But we are not sure when it will happen. Once it happens, then it will have severe impact. So we call it as so that type of impacts. There are a lot of uncertainty there, and that we include in this category. Then coming to the reversibility of impact. Reversibility means whether impact can reversible or irreversible, whether it can bring back to normal condition. That aspects we are taking into consideration. And the last one is significance of impact. Significance of impact means some of the impact. Here it's not a quantitative term, it's a qualitative term. Some of the impact, it is not related to magnitude, may not be related to magnitude. Some of the impact may be a small impact, but it will have significant significance. For example, during the construction of a dam in a particular region, maybe the forest area, part of the forest area may be affected, cutting down on trees. But if you are disturbing a nest of a pair of endangered birds in the particular region, forest area, the impact may be small, but it will be very significant. The significant impact will be very high because the category of bird is endangered category. So endangered, rare species, actually if you destroy, it will have significance, high significance. So these are the characteristics of environmental impact. So far we have seen definition of environmental impacts, goal of environmental impacts, and then the characteristics of environmental impacts. We use these technical terms in different ways to make an environmental impact assessment report. Thank you.